Hello, I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer for Connect and Collaborate. And today we are talking about apprenticeships, and I'm very excited to start that conversation. But before I do, I'd like to ask our audience out there to please check out our events page at cobrt.com/events. We have lots of stuff going on in October, particularly on the 30th. We have a cybersecurity event that we're hosting with Colorado State University Global Campus, so that's CSU Global, and that will be Tuesday, October 30th at 7 a.m. at History Colorado. Go ahead and sign up for that. We also have our upcoming legislative reception taking place in November and our award ceremony that will be in December, so check that out. But let's go ahead and jump into today's show. I have with me Henry Magallanes. He is with the Nordson Medical. He is the senior tooling engineer there. How are you doing today, Henry?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you. We're so excited to have you join us.
Thanks.
And so, like I said, we are focusing on apprenticeships, and you guys have a pretty good apprenticeship program that you've got going that you started with CareerWise. But before we get into the details of that, let's talk a little bit about you and your expertise and how you got involved with Nordson Medical, as well as maybe the, starting with CareerWise and how you jumped into that.
Okay, well, I actually have a different career path than a lot of people that are at my level.
Yeah.
I served two apprenticeships, one as a tool and die maker and one as a mold maker before I moved into management about 20 years ago. So for about 20 years I managed tool and die shops, mold shops, custom molders, those kinds of facilities, mostly in the plastics industry. I was the director of manufacturing for a small lighting company for a while. And about 4 years ago, I was running a consulting business out of my home, and a recruiter called me up and asked me if I wanted to move to Colorado, become a senior tooling engineer for Nordson Medical. So I came out and take a look and fell in love with the area and fell in love with the company. The company has a really strong philanthropic background, which was very important to me. And it's one of the most advanced manufacturing facilities I've ever seen. They do things that in my career in the Pacific Northwest I was told was not possible, and they do it as a matter of course. So it's pretty amazing. So you asked about how I got involved with CareerWise?
Yes. So, let's hold back on that just a minute. What exactly does a senior tooling engineer do?
So my job is kind of a sage position. My job is to help the new product development engineers design their parts in a way that are manufacturable. So I do a lot of DFM reports designed for manufacturability. So I'll take the parts in a CAD model, and I will evaluate it and write a report on what they need to change to make the part successfully in an injection molding shop. Then I troubleshoot other company. We have several companies around the country, and so I troubleshoot those their facilities for design for manufacturability. So if they have a problem part, they'll send me basically the problem, the models and stuff, and I'll put together a report based on that and based on what the problems they've had on what they can do to fix it. So I do a lot of that. I go to site visits and I will evaluate the business and see whether or not it's capable of producing parts for us.
Okay.
Those kinds of things. I also manage large projects. So tooling builds, meaning the molds that are built. I'll work with a new product development engineer on a product line. I will do concept designs for that product. Concept mold designs, and then forward that out to different companies to have them quote the projects, and then I'll manage that whole process until the part is ready to release to production.
Wow, so you're kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, kind of. I do a lot of different things in different areas. A lot of management, a lot of project management stuff.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of CAD design, so it's kind of a, like I said, it's kind of a different position.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of training, junior engineers or design for manufacturability seminars and those kinds of things. I've done a lot of that in my career.
Which is why I'm sure you were asked maybe to get involved with CareerWise on your apprenticeship pathway for Nordson Medical, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk about that. You mentioned off air to me that you were picked as a liaison because of your philanthropic background.
Yeah, it's because of my background, working my way up in manufacturing. So I've had everything from sweeping the floors to director of manufacturing and everything in between, right? So because of that, I'm kind of like a poster child for alternative career paths. I'm not a guy who went to college and spent a bunch of time getting a bunch of letters behind his name. I worked and I taught myself. I'm not downplaying an education at all. It's a great path, but there are other paths. And so when I was still working as a mold maker in the 90s, when I was listening to political pundits talking about the country turning to service industry, that's going to be our, and that just kind of lit a fire under me. I was like, really? Tell that to your grandma who went out and worked, in a factory to build airplanes during World War II. I mean, come on, no.
Yeah.
So it kind of, so I started joining advisory committees and in the Pacific Northwest. I did a lot of work there. I was on the steering committee for the Center for Advanced Learning in Gresham, which was like this big, giant facility. And we got Boeing involved and Intel and great Gates grants and all these things. So it was kind of a cool thing. So when I got here to Colorado, I started looking for opportunities. Yeah. I went to a Colorado Advanced Manufacturing Alliance event at Otterbox.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me contacts with people who were like, hey, you need to go talk to people over at Front Range Community College. And I went over there and I ended up joining their advisory committee. And they got me hooked up with Northern Colorado Manufacturing Partnership, so I started getting involved with that. So I was doing a lot of that stuff, hosting high school tours in our company and that kind of thing. And I was actually at a large meeting, I think it was in Boulder, an aerospace company, when Noel Ginsberg, who's the founder of CareerWise, gave a speech about visiting Switzerland with the governor and how they basically looked at that model and said, okay, we need to do this in Colorado. And that's how CareerWise Colorado was born. It hadn't actually launched yet, but I approached one of the representatives there and said, hey, Nordson needs to be involved with this. So I gathered information, presented it to our president and the plant manager at the time, and basically was told, okay, we want you in a leadership position on this thing. Let's get it going.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all started, and it was it's been a crazy ride, but it's been very, very successful.
Oh, wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about Nordson Medical's background, and you also mentioned their philanthropic. That's important to you.
Absolutely.
As a person, and one of the reasons that you decided to stay at Nordson, right,
yes.
here in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about Nordson and why they decided that this was going to be something that they wanted to focus on as well.
Well, Nordson has, as I said, has a long philanthropic history. Every year they give 5% of their net profits to basically to the communities in which they operate. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but
can be.
We're talking about a $2 billion multinational conglomerate, so that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think last year it was like $8.2 or $8.3 million.
Really?
Yeah. We've given as much as $500,000 into Northern Colorado through our what's it called, a Community Affairs Committee, CAC. Yeah. I was a president of that in 2017.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool thing. Basically, we give grants and capital grants, and other times we gave, I don't know, like $250,000 to the food bank, and to help them with their new building, and just all kinds of education and human welfare institutions. The only requirement is they have to be a 501c corporation. So which all schools are 501c's, mm-hmm. all charities are 501c's. So it worked out pretty well. So we do a lot of that stuff right now. Exactly. exactly right now. And this week we have what we call a Time to Give campaign, where our employees are encouraged to give and donate to local charities through the foundation, and we do it by having events or I don't know what you like. Today we have a cakewalk.
Oh,
right?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a cakewalk.
Yeah.
You pay $2, you win a cake. That $2 gets matched by Nordson. Every penny's getting matched by the corporation, and then that money stays in northern Colorado to be distributed in the spring during our campaign. I love that. It's awesome. That's it really amazing. Is. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So I know that I'm not a member of the executive board or anything like that, but I know there's been a big push within the executive team to try to get some kind of an apprenticeship program going. Mm-hmm. One of the problems with that is it's very arduous. It's very difficult. And we are a really lean manufacturing facility. That's one of the things. Do you mind just a brief refresher on what lean manufacturing is? We do have some audience members that know that, but just a quick brief, if you don't mind. No problem. No problem. Thank you. So one of the things that happened with the onslaught of offshoring, where companies have been pushing their work to China and other low-cost vendors, is that the people that didn't do that, or the people that couldn't do that, had to get more efficient by exponentially more efficient. Okay. So that's one of the things that Nordson did, is they embraced that. So lean manufacturing is a methodology by which you take out waste. It really started with Ford and Deming and those people in that era, and got moved over into Japan with the Toyota production systems, mm-hmm. and all of what that entails. So there's a whole genre of methods to take waste out of manufacturing processes, to automate and to make things as efficient as possible, and to not have wasted movement, wasted scrap, any kind of waste. Okay. So that's really what lean manufacturing is about. Thank you. Sure. I appreciate the little sidebar there for me. No problem. No problem. So apprenticeships for Nordson. Nordson. Yeah. I don't want to say Nordstrom. I know. I got clothes on the brain. Yeah, I know. A lot of people do the same thing. Yeah. So anyway, they wanted an apprenticeship program, but we couldn't get it done because we're so lean. Right. Right. It takes a lot of effort to do that kind of thing, and so there was an initiative out there to try to find a way to do it. So when I've heard about this for years working at Nordson. So when Noel was talking about that, I was like, yeah, that's us right here. So when I presented it to him, and I had a couple of people from CareerWise come out. Actually, Noel came out himself. Oh, cool! And that was cool. Yeah. And basically convince everybody that, look, this nonprofit is there to help us do this. They're taking care of a lot of the administrative stuff. They're taking care of getting our apprentices through a registered apprenticeship program, so that we can get federal dollars to cover their training and those kinds of things. So it's been invaluable, and it's been extremely successful. Yeah. So talk a little bit more about, so you mentioned how arduous it is, and because you're a lean group, it's a lot of manpower to get this apprenticeship started. Mm-hmm. So what kind of things did they provide for you to be able to get started? So mostly what they did is they provide a lot of HR support at the beginning, right? They do a lot of recruiting. So they're the ones who go out and get the schools signed up. So the first year they were only able to get one school signed up in our area, because it was a charter school, mainly because the public schools couldn't get it done quick enough. There was too much bureaucracy and that kind of stuff. But since then, they've got the two major public schools in our area on board. So now we have a huge talent pool to pull from. And they do a lot of advertising, they do a lot of outreach programs, and so when you start your apprentices in there, they have training through safety training that is certificate based. So a nationally recognized certificate system, MSSC. They have a training camp in June where they bring the kids in. They train the kids on how, on what to do, the soft skills on how to act, in a business.
The stuff that you can't learn on the job, right?
Exactly.
How to handshake and look somebody in the eye
Right.
and be a great communicator. Yeah.
And plus they facilitate the actual training programs ourselves in our facility. So they help us develop our own training programs, and then they train our trainers.
Okay.
So we send our people to their facility, and they train them on how to teach kids.
Huh.
So there's a ton of support there.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's ongoing. They're a liaison between the schools and us, and the apprentice themselves. So they, it's every month there's something going on. There's some kind of contact. So it really is, like I said, it's invaluable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. So you officially have had your first year of apprenticeship students completed, yes?
Yes.
So talk about that. First of all, how exciting was it for you to bring these kids in?
Oh, just amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing. We went to the school. I was at the school when we just started talking to the kids about it. And, of course, some kids are like, we could care less, and others were just leaning forward. Going, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then we had a parents, teacher, kids night, so that the parents could come out and tour the facility. That generated a ton of interest. We show really well. So it was really exciting when we finally got them in, and they had an award ceremony at the governor's mansion where they gave us a little plaque for being in the pilot year and that kind of thing, and then we had the kids. The kids went through the boot camp, and then came out, and of course the kids were kind of nervous. No one really knew how it was going to turn out. Geez, within a week, these kids are like sponges. I mean, soaking everything up, and one of the things that was nice is that CareerWise provided a financial model showing us when we could expect them to be profitable.
Yeah.
Well, we way blew that out of the water.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Those kids were not completely autonomous, but pretty much on their own within the first year. And it was supposed to be like 18 months before we'd see that.
Right.
And no, we had fantastic kids.
So are they getting compensated through this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's a structured compensation package where they start out. I can't really discuss how much they make, but they start out at one pay scale, which is well above minimum.
Well, and you're in high school, so it's a nice to have that pocket money, right?
Right, and then they only work 16 hours a day in the first year. Or 16 hours a day.
I was like, that's
16-hour a week.
Okay.
Yeah, 16 hours
a week. Okay, so doable.
Right. And then 20 to 24 the second week with a bump in pay. Or second year. And then another bump, 32 to 40 hours a week. But at that point, they're out of high school.
Right.
And another bump in pay.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, then they're evaluated on whether or not they could be offered a position if they want.
Yeah.
And the thing is we've spent a lot of time in there. They've been making us money for a couple of years. Why wouldn't we hire them? If there's an opening, why would they're already there? Why wouldn't we hire them? And also, then they're in a full-time employee. They're eligible for things like tuition reimbursement. And all, they could end up getting degrees and having us pay for it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right. So you're getting it. You're essentially, first of all, they are getting certified, right? They do get high school credit for this.
Yes.
They do get some certification, and on top of the high school credit, and they're getting paid. And then you've already got these prompt workers right at your beck and call.
Yep.
At the end of this program.
Right, and from their benefit is one of the things that people who come out of college complain about is well, I can't get a job, and they want somebody with experience. I go, well, Yeah. So
Yeah,
if you went through
exactly.
this and you actually got a college, like one of the young ladies is really interested in getting an engineering degree from her exposure to manufacturing. So if she goes through this whole program and ends up with an engineering degree, she's already got an engineering degree plus X number of years of experience under her belt.
Exactly.
She'll be able to write her own ticket anywhere.
Exactly. And you're offering, I love that you guys offer the tuition reimbursement. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful that you guys offer that on your own. I'm sure that you mentioned at the beginning with your background that you had a couple of apprenticeships yourself. Mm-hmm. Did you see yourself in any of these kids going through?
A little bit. Margaret, who's the one I was just talking about, she has an intense curiosity about everything to do with everything, right? She wants to know everything.
Curiosity is not a teachable skill, by the way.
No.
You have to inherently have that.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's where I saw, I was the kid who used to get in trouble when I was little for taking everything apart. I had to know how things worked.
Right.
So it drove my mom crazy taking things apart all the time. So that's what I see in her, is that, she's someone who's intensely into what she's doing and wants to know how it works. So I
love that. She has the brain of an engineer.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Yes. Lovely. So what are your hopes, your personal hopes and goals with this continuing apprenticeship program that you've got going on?
Well, my hope is that we continue this and are just feeding the pipeline, right? And not just the apprentices that we have, but other apprenticeships throughout the region to promote manufacturing career paths as viable. I know that I give this speech. I've given this speech for years, where I start out by saying that, let me dispel the blue collar myth. Mm-hmm. We are not beer swilling, dirty T-shirt wearing, inbred degenerates with unclean habits and questionable parentage. Okay.
I am.
Some of us are. Some of us are, but that's not the norm.
Right.
But that is the stigma that's attached to manufacturing, mm-hmm. is that it's dirty, demeaning, and dangerous, and nothing's further from the truth.
Right.
Especially now. Again, the manufacturing has changed so much in the last 10 years, mm-hmm. but more in the last 20 to 30. It's now efficient, clean, extremely difficult work, challenging work, meaning not really difficult, but challenging.
Yeah.
You have to be, well, like a good example is mold makers, where I come from. You have to be a practical metallurgist. You have to be a computer programmer. You have to be really skilled with your hands. Mm-hmm. You have to be a project manager to be able to run multiple projects at the same time. Yeah. All of those things come into play. You don't think of that as your old, great grandpa was a tool and die maker with a dirty rag in his back pocket, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Those days are gone. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would hope, is that through all of this, mm-hmm. that stigma gets changed.
And I think we are definitely on our way. That's for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining me. We have about a minute here. Where can I learn more about Nordson Medical?
NordsonMedical.com,
yeah,
or Nordson.com. Both of those will get you into our big websites that give a lot of information about what we do and who we are.
Yeah. Wonderful. I appreciate that. And any last words of advice for kids that are looking to be an apprentice?
Contact CareerWiseColorado.com. Go on the website, check it out.
Yeah.
It's not just advanced manufacturing. They're going into many different genres.
Yeah.
So don't rule out a different path, especially if you're a person who doesn't see themselves going to college right away. Mm-hmm. This is a way to explore an area or an industry to get better focused on what you would like to do the rest of your life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Henry. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
And be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.